but just so the people who are here with us can enjoy this talk from the beginning. I am Gabriella Di Laccio. I am a soprano. I live in London for many years, and I'm also the founder of Donne, Women in Music, which is a charitable foundation dedicated to achieving gender equality in the music industry. It's a lot of work, but it's a very inspirational work. And the more I do, the more I see how much more we all have to do. And in this, in part of this journey, I met this wonderful artist, composer, beautiful person, and who became a dear friend as well, and a great collaborator. And that's Catarina Domenici, Brazilian composer. And today, I mean, since we started our journey together as friends and partners in music, was back with a phone call in 2017, 18, wasn't it, Catarina? And then since then, we collaborated so many times in concerts from a distance during the pandemic. And then Catarina also had, she's gonna tell you more, but since we first spoke, her opus numbers kind of tripled or quadrupled. You know, she created this long, beautiful repertoire and list of works, and which have been now and today, I think they're all available on her music, our playlist on Apple. So if you go to our page on Apple Music, on Donne's page on Apple Music, you will see the whole catalog of Catarina's work there, including the release we're going to talk about today, but not only, but also her piano solos, all many other songs and chamber works as well. So, well, that's a short introduction to an amazing artist, and I just wanted to welcome Catarina, and I give you a distant hug here from London.
Thank you so much, Gabi. Hug from Porto Alegre. So I'm Catarina Domenici, pianist, composer, and professor of music here at the Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul, at Porto Alegre in Brazil, the very south of Brazil, the last capital south of Brazil. And I'm really thankful for Gabi for doing this live, and most of all for being a wonderful inspiration and a collaborator. I wouldn't have composed so many works by now if not for the wonderful musicians and friends who I met along this journey. Since that very first call Gabi gave me in 2018. By that point, I only had piano solo works, and she invited me to contribute to a CD of her wonderful project of Donne Women in Music, which was by then just a project, and now it's a foundation. Gabi did it. Amazing, amazing. Hats off. And so I had the opportunity of giving 2 songs to that project, which are Healing, a lullaby for my younger self, and Marielle Presente, which I composed days after the assassination, the political assassination of Marielle Franco in 2018. And after that, I composed many other songs, both for Gabriella Di Laccio and Suzy Georgiadis, who recorded these first 2 songs. I composed Amazonia as a commission from Suzy and Carla Juarez, pianist Carla Juaro. And I composed Ciranda for both Gabi and Suzy. I made new arrangements of Francisca Gonzaga Roda Yo-Yo in Lua Branca. I have a trio arrangement of these 2 songs on my Songbook Volume 1 album, digital album, which was actually commissioned by Suzy Georgiadis for the Alma Trio in Italy. And in this new release, the EP Letters to My Mother, me and Gabi recorded the voice and piano arrangements, recreations actually of these two songs. And it was 2019 that we first musically met on stage for a concert at the Curitiba Theater Festival. And Gabi asked me if I could also include Vigala by Josef Weber on the program. So she gave me a lead sheet, just a melody and the chords. And I said, you know, how can I, and she told me the story about the song that was written in a concentration camp, and Josef Weber used to be a nurse and to care for children, tell children's stories. And she made this lullaby apparently to calm down children during such a horrific and traumatic time. And I said, how can we bring this setting into a new arrangement of Vigala? So that's the other song that is on the EP that is being released today. And it was already released, first version of that arrangement in 2019 as a single, Vigala. And now there is also an arrangement for a harp, wonderful soprano, Gabriella Di Laccio, and her ensemble. It's available on my YouTube channel. Check it out. But now I would like to say a little bit about this song cycle, Letters to My Mother. So after having this magical musical meeting with Gabriella on stage, I was enchanted by her potential, her vocal qualities, and her dramaticity. And I started already to get inspired to write a song about my relationship with my mother. And also the whole situation of being a survivor of sexual abuse, and the question that is usually unanswered, that we kind of mentally ask our mothers. It's like, didn't you see this? What was going on with me? Weren't you aware that I was being abused? So I came up with this project of 4 songs, and I composed 2 of them before our concert in London, right before the pandemic in February 2020. We actually premiered these 2 songs in London. And then I came back home, and the pandemic struck and locked down the whole world. And I finished composing the 2 others, movements, songs 3 and 4, The Wound and The Farewell. And we had the opportunity of premiering the whole cycle in London last year. And we recorded the whole cycle that is available on the EP Letters to My Mother. And it's a really painful process. It's a painful therapeutic process to deal with trauma. And I have been working on the therapy side for many decades, 3 decades to be more precise by now. And writing this cycle just gave me a way to resolve the issues with my mother, because I always suspected that she knew about it, but at the same time, she didn't know about it, because she did nothing to protect me. She did nothing to talk to me about it. Nothing is like, I don't want to know about it, right? And I suspected that, you pick up pieces and bits of information here and there, and you start asking yourself if that very thing could have happened to her as well in her childhood. And I think it was 2018 one of my sisters discovered a text hidden in a drawer that my mother wrote because she loves writing. And she wrote this text about a mask of death that she wears on her face because of something that happened to her in her childhood that she never told anyone about. And she feels more dead than alive because of this, and the burden of silence, the burden of keeping a secret. And I strongly believe that has everything to do in the way my mother developed, or better, did not develop as a woman, because she ended up becoming a very narcissistic mother, and is really troubled relationship with me, aside from the sexual abuse. There was the narcissism as well, that she could not see a half-Black child. She is a white woman, so race is in the mix as well. It's very complicated relationship.
It's never one dimension, is it? Of course.
No, it's not. It's very complex because it's life. Life is incredibly layered and complex and multi-dimensional. It's really something. Yeah. So I ended up being inspired by this text my mother wrote to write the lyrics for the second song, which is The Mask. Because in the first song, that's the bond, and it addresses the bond of silence between mother and daughter. Please don't tell, please don't tell. Shh, we don't talk about it. And I decided to tell, and how freeing this is to me. And then I imagine the mask as my mother replying to me, why she didn't do anything, why she didn't see, why she chose not to see and not do anything about it. So the bond of silence was broken, was shattered. So in the third one, which is The Wound, I feel like this little girl trying to kick her mother as she's half dead. And I'm like, be alive, come to life, wake up, my mother. We have carried men on our backs by being silent for so long. Wake up, manifest your rage. Your rage is my rage, is all of our rage, for all of us, which we were poisoned by secrecy. Secrecy is a poison, because secrecy is actually what ultimately maintains patriarchy, is the silence of women. Men abusing their power, they are so used to it on so many levels and in so many different ways. But we always keep quiet. We don't talk about it. We don't expose it. So we need to expose it to break the cycle of violence against women. So that's The Wound. It's number 3. And number 4 is The Farewell. When I realized in my therapeutic process that I had to let go of my mother. If I want to develop into womanhood and not be just this damaged girl, I had to let go of her. And letting go is understanding why it's that way, what her limitations are.
Yeah, when you say let go, you mean forgiving her, or just?
More than forgiving, I think, is understanding, because I don't know, I'm a very not rational, I'm extremely emotional as well, but I have reason is very strong for me. So if I understand something, it's easier. It's easier. It's not a kind of a blind letting go of from the bottom of my heart. No, I have to understand why she acted like that. And the understanding kind of leads me through this letting go. I don't know if it's forgiveness, but I think so.
Yeah, I remember I was just showing, look, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
It's on our playlist today, and I really invite everybody to listen. So as Catarina said, the first song is called The Bond, the second, The Mask, the third, The Wound, and the last one, The Farewell. And it's really, well, first of all, I didn't know she thought all these things about me when she started she started planning all this cycle. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I guess
you were the voice. I wrote it for your voice. I wrote it with your voice in mind, as much as I wrote Amazonia with Susie's voice in mind. It's like each one of you are so unique and so wonderful, and you afford so much for me to play with. It's wonderful.
Well,
thank you so much.
And I think this is thank you. You know, this is one of the things that for me, since I started Donne, it's so amazing, because we always played and sung music by mostly dead composers, right? We never really experienced, at least myself, for many years. I know, Catarina, you've been a great trooper of contemporary composers for many years in your life. But for me, this came a bit later in my career, and it's so special to be able to make music like this, you know, like sharing this, how you felt, and you being inspired by me and me being inspired by you, and then suddenly you feel like, wow, I wonder if it was like that with Beethoven or Mozart or all the composers in the past. But I remember when I was going to, first of all, sing in the concert back in 2019. No, 2020, wasn't it?
20.
Beginning of the pandemic. And then later the recording, because I couldn't really express, or I haven't experienced everything you experienced. And I think I say that on the video, but it was so easy actually to be able to sing the songs, because you laid all the feelings there for us, and it's really incredible. And I don't normally invite people to listen works that I sing because I'm always self-conscious. We all are, you know. No. And when people put on the radio, oh, Gabby, you're playing. No. But with this one, I really invite you all to, you know, it's a beautiful journey, and it's quite a generous ending, I find, it's a very generous offer in terms of music that you do with this cycle. And we premiered in London last year, and it was such a very varied audience, wasn't it? And it was a very intimate concert, and you never know how people are going to react, because you know, we are used to talking about love and broken heart from a man doing something to a woman, or vice versa, but you know, nobody really touches so much this precious relationship, which is the relationship between mother and daughter, because we all want to always imagine this perfect. And I think it's such a brave subject to start. But after we finished this concert, it was amazing how many people came to talk to both of us. And many of them mothers, and the understanding from their side of saying, yeah, it's not easy, you know, we are only humans, and sometimes we don't know exactly. So it was really my honor to, and I really hope we can do many more times, because it's really one of those pieces that they really touch people in different ways, and leave something for each person to take or reflect, I guess. And I think the coincidentally, I mean, is a interesting fact of our relationship, but there's a lot of drama involved in it, isn't it? Because it started with a phone call, but then it was your first song was already, maybe you talk about this later, but it was already a song that was a first top of the iceberg of the same trauma coming out. And then the second song, when I called you again, Catarina, we're waiting for the second song, and there was a misunderstanding because you said, I don't have a second song, I thought it was only one. And then Marielle Franco, the Brazilian councilwoman, was assassinated on your birthday.
Yes.
And then Catarina, correct me if I'm wrong, you wrote the song overnight, in the middle of the night?
Yeah, in the middle of the night, but not on the day after, because she was assassinated on a Thursday. And I was so shocked that I was silent. I just had an implosion, I think. And then on Monday, very early in the morning, like 4 or 4:30 in the morning, I woke up like with this jolt of energy, and I started writing the music of Marielle Presente. And then you called me. You said, oh, where's the other song? I said, it's coming. I'll have it for you by tonight. And I did.
And you did.
Yeah, it was one of those songs that already, like, everything clicks and it's instantaneous. And it's like children. Works are like children. Everyone is different. Each one is different. And other songs that you labor and you revise and you redo things, like the Bond. The first version of 2019 is very different from the version that we recorded last year. I revised, I racked my brain to make it better, because I am a freak perfectionist. Yes, I am. Oh, well, nobody's perfect.
Oh, well, I mean, but I guess
nobody's perfect. No. It's crazy.
And it's really interesting, because I think that's each person has a way of working, of creating. But so just can we, and then the next piece I asked you to write was Vigala, which was again a traumatic lullaby written in a situation that none of us can imagine, by this wonderful composer Ilse Weber, who was trying to really make the lives of the elderly and the children in Theresienstadt a bit lighter by writing plays and singing songs. And it was exactly like that. It was a piece of nothing. It's like a one sheet music that was kind of just, that's it, there's 3 chords.
Yeah.
And then again, Vigala is another it's another piece that I sing in every possibility I can, because it moves people, and the arrangement Catarina did really just enhanced all the depthness of, Ilse Weber wouldn't have been probably a composer that we would have heard of anyway. She wouldn't be writing big works, and the fact that we managed to create this together, well, Catarina created, it's amazing that how far her story can go just because of this.
Exactly.
So I'm very emotional about that one as well.
It carries her name on and brings her to the tradition of concert music, of Western classical music.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about Healing? Because Healing is another song that is part of the Donne collection, but Catarina re-recorded this again. So it's all on the same playlist, Apple Music playlist, this is there this whole week, and then after that you can just search on Catarina's page on Apple Music. I actually check Apple Music is very organized with all your works there.
Yeah, I found it organizing Apple Music. It's messed up on Spotify and YouTube, but they are going to correct it. Thank God.
Good. So we when we first talked, so you had this song called Healing, and Healing is like another part of the Letters to My Mother, or completely not connected?
It's musically not connected, but in terms of therapeutical process, it's connected. It's the beginning, and I wouldn't say the end, but the more actual phase, because that kind of trauma doesn't heal probably in a lifetime. It's a scar that you carry on, and you learn to live with it and to resolve the best you can. But I will make a preamble before I talk about healing, and I will connect with what Gabi said about this relationship, this mother-daughter relationship, not being talked about very often, at least not in those terms, because I think this as well is something that we have to thank for patriarchy, because of the idealization of motherhood. Our culture idealizes motherhood. So all mothers are saints. They all have this unconditional love to give their babies. And it was this feeling that I felt on the reverse when I had my son. I felt like I'm not a good mother. I don't fit this idealization thing. And of course, a birth or a death, any kind of big emotional events in life trigger repressed memories. And that's exactly where my memory was triggered. So I started doing therapy while I was in the United States doing my DMA with a newborn son, and feeling extremely inadequate as a mother, and dealing with this the surfacing of repressed memories, which for days I was sick in bed, just throwing up with horrible headaches. I couldn't open my eyes. I had all kinds of somatic responses to these memories. And they felt like it felt like I was leaving them again, and it was like really horrible. So I was a part of a group of sexual abuse survivors. I did individual therapy, and that was 1996. And in 1999, while I was driving from Canandaigua, where I had a teaching position at the community college there, in Rochester, where I was living with my husband and my son and doing my DMA. The song just came ready in my mind, the lyrics and the melody. So I sung the song, and I was working on the song between Canandaigua and Rochester, which is kind of a 3-hour drive. And when I got in Rochester, I went to the piano and I wrote it down. So I composed Healing. The first incarnation of Healing was like a pop song. It was in 4/4 meter, didn't work very well. I wasn't very pleased with it. So I just, I recorded it and wrote it down and let it sleep. And the long sleep it had for almost 20 years. And then I reworked Healing as a lullaby, and I think it worked beautifully. And I was already a more mature person, a more mature pianist, a more mature composer, because back in 1999, I wouldn't dream of considering myself as a composer. Considering myself a composer, I wouldn't see myself in that light
But
And
were you composing, or that was the first thing you were composing in back in
no,
99?
wasn't the first. I composed since my very first piano lesson.
Oh my
I have
God.
piles and piles of little music notebooks with ideas written all over, little notebooks with lyrics, with poems. I always composing, but always keeping it in the closet, hidden away. And I did not see myself as a composer at all, mostly because, those silent messages you get from culture, right? You see all male dominated programs, all male dominated musical canon, all male dominated composition faculty. You say composition is not for women in classical music, clearly, right? You come to that conclusion almost subconsciously, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go there, I guess.
I think exactly that. When I was doing a concert last week actually, and I did ask people, before I start the concert, I want to ask how many women composers in history of music. I told them not to tell me, just to think about it. Oh, and then how many women composers alive, women composers, right? Because then you can justify that, maybe there were not as many historical women composers. But when it comes to living women composers, then you shouldn't really have to, imagine they shouldn't be equal, right? And then the third question was, so how many times you go to a concert or a festival, or you're listening to the radio, or you're checking your playlists on your phone, and you actually pay attention to how many of those are men and how many are women? Because actually we don't. We spend our whole life going to concerts and accepting, and that was my case. I love music, and even though I was growing up in Brazil and I was very far away from many of the, the opportunities and concerts I would like to see, but I went to a lot of concerts, every one I could. Our symphony orchestra, I was singing in the symphony choir, and I can't remember seeing a name of a woman in a program all those years, right? And then and we don't question. We don't even question, because we just accept, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's very, I can imagine for a woman who wanted to be a composer, now is much easier, I guess. There's still barriers in the industry, but I believe women now can believe they can do it, and they know Donne is trying to help that they existed. And there were plenty of them, even in historical times. And then I laugh because you always said you were a composer, a closet composer, and you came out of the closet after.
The first song I wrote was 1977. It was the first year I started piano lessons. But then the following year, I went to study at Tatuí Conservatory, the Conservatory at Tatuí. They didn't have a composition course there. And everything we learned was about the composition by men, written by European white men. So what I started to do, I went and involved myself with Brazilian popular music. I started putting my songs in Brazilian popular music festivals, writing for festivals, and writing for jazz groups that I had with colleagues. Again, the only woman in the band, right? But the scene was not very different in popular music. There were women singing, not much playing an instrument, and less still composing. So it was like block. You know, creating music, composing music is no place for a woman. So I went to my private closet and I hid there for 5 decades, almost, something like that. It's a long time. It was a long time. So long that I ask myself today, how could I have lived all those years without that, without taking me seriously?
Sorry, I was mute. Yeah, I don't know, because the amount of things you have to share is, you have such a richness of language inside of you, also because of all your different genres, you know, from samba school, from contemporary music, jazz, classical, everything. Tell us a bit more about that as well, no? Because you're not, which I think is great, but you don't follow one particular avenue only when you're composing. And I think that's amazing. I think for me, it's one of the reasons why your music's so special, because it's, yeah, you know that.
And I think that's where composition came to break down the barriers. Because I realized that it came to a point around 2015, 2014, 2015, that I was writing a bio to send for a recital, a concert. And I read the bio and I said, who is this person? There is so much of my other experiences that are not contemplated here. But if I realize that is the same body, the same being that plays samba, that plays jazz, that plays contemporary, that creates music, that improvises, that performs the common practice repertoire on piano, that does chamber music, that does this, how come I'm straightening myself to fit into a little tiny box? I'm so much bigger than this. And then composing was the very activity that helped me integrate all those facets, all those experiences, those musical experiences that otherwise, had I followed the path most commonly traveled, I would be defined as a contemporary music pianist, or just as a classical music pianist, or, you know, just in a tiny little box that ends up giving you a kind of authority over that little territory, right? Because you're supposed to be specialized in that, but also restrains your musical activities and restrains your musical identity. So I rebelled against it. I said, I'm all of this, deal with it. I'm everything. I'm what I want to be and not what I'm told or expected to be. Please let me be myself.
I have a, can you believe it is almost 6:45? I have actually a couple of questions that people who couldn't watch sent to me. And there is one that I will share right now, because, and this is a question that I got from a student as well. So when, in this case, could you actually be yourself? Because this is a question from a music student at the moment who study in composition. And she told me that in order to have the grades, she needs to write music that is not her music. She needs to write what is expected, because she can't really, you know, go against her teachers and convince that, oh, but this is my language. This is how I want to write. So how, I don't know, how would you, what's your advice for somebody who's still within those, you know, because when we are inside an institution, it's hard, because we need to, we want to be accepted, and we need to achieve certain grades based on what each institution how they judge or whatever they expect of us. And then we normally have a main tutor, you know. In my case, I had a main singing teacher, and of course you have different classes you go, and then workshops and master classes, but you normally work closer with one person. And I think in this case, she works closer with a person who doesn't like what she's trying to write.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. First of all my professional training, like undergrad, graduate, master's, DMA, it was in performance. I wasn't formally trained. I did not take a course, a university course in composition, but I always studied composition privately. So I cannot give you any practical advice. However, as a piano teacher at the university here, right, we have this curriculum and the repertoire that is expected of piano students to perform. I, as a professor, I am very sensitive and very serious about taking the students' interests and identities, artistic identities that are still forming, still developing, and working with them. So, for instance, one of my students almost gave up with the classical music, the classical piano course. She wanted to go to popular music. I said, if you go to the popular music course, if you switch courses, you won't have piano lessons there. There is no work on the instrument, the developing as an instrumentalist. So what we can do here is to open the spectrum of the repertoire. I can teach you how to arrange things yourself from popular music. We work on the common practice repertoire that you need to develop, and I always tell her it's there in a certain piece of music that she can learn. It's not that learning by rote, like you play this like this and that's it. No, I'm so into how this piece is constructed pianistically, what the piece demands that you develop technically in order to perform it, and how can you bring this style or this touch that you learned, or this way of phrasing, into an arrangement of Tom Jobim, for instance, right? Yeah. So we are working with this very diverse, very open repertoire. Another student of mine is working as a PhD student in making his own arrangements of rock music for piano solo. And he's giving his recital 3 days on Thursday. It's just Friedrich Gould, Christopher Riley, his own arrangements, and Brad Meldau. So the repertoire is immense, but the problem is with how the teachers think what they are teaching, about what they are teaching, right? Yeah. We want to develop the basic abilities, the musician's abilities. And if you think in terms of abilities, you're gonna see that all genres of music rely on the same abilities. Aesthetically, they differ, but the basic abilities are always there. Is how to phrase, good rhythm, good pulse, how to keep the pulse, is how to deal with harmonies, how to deal with counterpoint, no matter what genre of music you play, right? So I think it's a lot to do with the way pedagogy is taught, music pedagogy in general. Today, with this plurality of information and of musical styles and genres. Now, the other thing that helped me is being Brazilian. Why? Because we're periphery. Because we don't matter to this civilized world. So we can do whatever we want. So I took that bet. I took it to heart. I don't matter. I'm a third world Brazilian woman, biracial, So I don't matter. I can do whatever I want. that's very empowering.
That's I don't think you don't matter. I think you do matter, but I understand the feeling that we feel so far away, right? That's so distant from, and I think that's the case for so many artists in Brazil, men and women. You know, it's easy to feel that you don't matter because, and it was a feeling I had when I came here, actually, which people sometimes don't know, because you come from, as you said, is a third world country. Every time I say Brazil is a third world country, people say, what? No, Brazil is not. Well, it is. It's a beautiful country.
That's how they see us.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful country, and it has amazing people. For me, that's the best thing the country has, and this diversity that enriches our. Since we are kids, we grow up seeing so many different cultures around us and hearing these, living these cultures. But anyway, we don't have the stereotype of being the top classical musicians in the world. I think things are changing now. So we arrive here in the scenery of the European music, and as a Brazilian singer, of course, nobody expected great things from me. That's at least what I felt. So I always felt like, wow, I have to really prove myself, because I don't have these sort of, this first card that appears before you if you are,
but we do
a violinist from Japan. Sorry,
we do have top Brazilians in the world musical classical
absolutely
music,
yeah,
right? Nelson Freire, Antonio Menezes, Diana Caxo. We always had these top shelf musicians. But the thing is, I think it's like Villa-Lobos, right? It's like there is the weight of tradition in European countries, less in the United States, and even less here. But Villa said, I'm a Brazilian. I'm gonna do the music of my country. It's like I understand that tradition can be a heavy weight to carry on your shoulders, but at the same point, you need to kind of reevaluate if you want to carry it, and sometimes be drawn by it. Be smashed by it, or if you want to break away from it. And there are so many European composers who broke away from it. The rebels.
Definitely. I don't know if people want to ask questions. I have another question that somebody sent me before, in case if anybody wants to ask a question, the time is now. So this question is from another composer. She's in America, and she says that she had a lot of trauma in her life, and the problem she finds about trying to turn this into art is that the sadness kills her creativity. So how can you overcome the blank of one sadness of the trauma, instead of pushing you to create that art? It just freezes you, because
it's so much. I totally understand that,
because I can imagine,
and what helped me was to put into words, is to write about it. That's what helped me more than just the sounds. The words helped me a lot. Once I start writing about it, it was a liberating feeling. And the funny thing was that then the sounds came with the words. they came kind of combined, like in the song Healing. So I believe that everybody is different, but that's the tip that I can give you, is to share with you what helped me to get over this it's like an ocean of sadness. There isn't ocean big enough to carry all that sadness. It's just overwhelming. It's like your tears are gonna fill the oceans of 3-4 planets together. It's unbelievable. But when you articulate, when you are able to start articulating that into words, you feel more perhaps.
But even if you want to write an instrumental piece, do you think it's also important to start writing your feelings as words first and try to see?
For me, writing about it it's like thinking about them and resolving them, because a lot of traumatic experience is about feeling powerless. It's about feeling overcome, of being impotent, like you're not able to do anything. And I discovered that's why the therapeutic process is so important, because it gets you to articulate, to speak, to talk about it. And as you talk about it, you refine the experience. You started to perhaps talk poetically about it, or just raw about it, whatever way, but you started putting it out there in very clear way. And for me, clear is good. For me, it helps. Otherwise, it's just a covert thing all over again. So I think even if it's an instrumental piece, perhaps it would be helpful to start thinking the program notes about this piece. What is this piece about? And writing a little text about your idea for this piece that would give you more, perhaps even an intimate connection with your sonic universe.
Well, that's very interesting. I never thought of that, because that clearly would help, I guess, if you write beautifully for voice, and some people prefer writing just an instrumental piece, and I guess this is a great way of organizing the thoughts, I guess, and then letting, of course, I mean, it doesn't mean it's a magical way of happening, I guess, for
no,
for
it's
somebody
different. Yeah. And I also experienced the very opposite of that. Of just, if you feel this emotion, right?
Yeah.
Just dive into it. Dive. Go to the piano and just, just go into it and dive, and then it's gonna come. It's gonna come. Just leave it instead of trying to understand. It's like the opposite thing, right? One is trying to understand, putting it out there, and the other is just go deep into it and let it manifest itself, even if it's a little gesture. And how can that become music?
Yeah. Oh my God. We need like a weekend of conversations. You can't just, in 1 hour. We are just starting to get into the thing. No. Well, I don't know if anybody has any more questions. I'm just gonna have a quick look here. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna put here on the chat. First of all, when we recorded Letters to My Mother, there is now a documentary which is on Catarina's YouTube channel. So I'm gonna put the link here. I should be able to type in and talk at the same time. Catarina, you want to say something before? Documentary.
That was just
before we say goodbye. And I'm also gonna put, oh, there is a question here. Oh, Catarina, where is your courage coming from to make public so intimate and traumatic experience from your childhood, even if they are beautifully translated into art? And what would be your advice to young people who may be dealing with child abuse?
speak up. Young people and young speaking up is not because you need someone to listen. You need someone to listen. Because I spoke up, but nobody listened. Nobody believed. So you need to. It's very hard because most of child abuse is inside the family. And if the family is an enclosed one, as was mine, very closed off environment, you get isolated from other parts of the society, of community, right? Of course, I went to school, but by then I already learned that we need to keep faith. We need to, to pass for this perfect family, and that nothing is wrong with us. No, nothing is wrong with us. We are totally model citizens and blah, 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 blah. So I think we need, for one, I think we need to speak up. The survivors need to speak up, to encourage people who are going through this to speak up, to let them know that they are not alone. They are not alone. There are billions of women that have had the same unfortunate experience as myself. We share a common wound and we need to talk about it. So I think the survivors play a key role on denouncing it, on just putting it out there, of not being ashamed, because what keeps people from talking about it is shame.
Yeah.
And somehow guilt, feeling guilt that this happened. Oh my God, I'm not perfect. I'm not what you think, what you might think I am. I'm a mess. I was ravaged. I'm a broken doll. I'm broken. And for you to say publicly that you were broken and that you were able and are still working on gluing yourself together, the wonderful art, Japanese art of kitsungi, this perfection made of imperfection, and life is imperfect.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, that we need to be truthful.
Well, I'm sure I speak for myself and everybody who is listening now and all the people who are going to listen later. But I really salute your courage and your generosity in sharing everything that you did with us today and in many other situations as well, personally with me, and most of all for your generosity in sharing this through music, to be able to overcome your personal pain, your personal barriers that could have just stayed with you, but you gave us this amazing present that is your music because of it. So we would all prefer that nothing like that ever happened to you or to anyone out there. But the fact that you're here today sharing your story, I hope that will help to empower other people listening to, one, have the courage to speak up, and it doesn't matter to who. And one thing that the Donne Foundation has taught me is that there is an amazing network of people that are part of Donne. And I do receive messages from women in these situations, not equal as yours, but in different kinds of feeling uncomfortable in the industry. And Donne is always a place where people can at least reach out, even if we can't solve the problem. It's a way of sharing, and in any way, we will always try to connect with the correct person. And so feel free to, because sometimes speaking to a person might be too hard, but always feel like you can write to us here as well.
Yes, that's awesome.
And we try to do our best. But I think for now, I put all Catarina's links there.
Awesome.
Anyone that I forgot, Catarina, put your YouTube channel, your personal website, the documentary,
Instagram, Facebook, the pianist
Instagram, Facebook, and then if you want to say a last message or
last message, which brings us back to Letters to My Mother, which is hurt people who were hurt, were traumatized, were abused, and who have not dealt properly with the wounds and the consequences of this are inevitably going to hurt another person. So it's about breaking the cycle of violence. And for us women, in order to break the cycle of violence, we have to break the pact of silence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really the key. And even it doesn't matter, you know, abuse can happen and trauma can happen in so many different ways. And it's really interesting, more sad than interesting, that the first feeling we feel in a situation like that is shame, isn't it? Is shame. So and that's, I think, the title of this conversation is really powerful, is break the silence. And it's time to, more than ever, for all of us to know that we are connected and we should empower each other. And any other person who, you know, abuse, trauma happens to men and women, and, you know, it's not specific to women. And I think we should all be here for each other. And I'm here for you. And more than anything, I just want to say thank you for, you know, for being part of my artistic life and my personal life as well, and for all the beautiful music you have written. Oh yes, and I got. It was here. I lost. Somebody asked me. Oh, ask her what else is coming. What's next? So if we're gonna, what's next? What's next, Catarina? Before we leave you.
Next, I think there are many things being, how do you say, prepared now, but they are in the beginning stages of preparation. So I'd rather not talk about it right now.
Okay. That's, I understand. Oh, just a last message from Barbara. Thank you. A subject close to my heart. Still have scars, but I can speak out. But now I can speak out. So
awesome.
A huge kiss, Catarina.
Huge thank you, Gabriella, so
now
much
everybody
for all the work you do, for being my friend, and for being an inspiration and a wonderful musical partner. Thank you so much.
Right back at you. And everybody, when this is finished, go and listen to Letters to My Mother. Well, watch the documentary first, maybe. Is 10 minutes. It's quite short. And then I think it's so telling when you learn a little bit more about each piece. And hopefully you can see live here in London, in Brazil, both around the world.
Yeah.
Big hugs.
Big hugs. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interactions. Thank you so much.